Hello, everyone out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to the Bitcoin Business Bureau. As you know, I'm the host, as always, LitecoinLeader, and I'm here joined by Patrick, Divvy Daddy, and we're going to be here just chatting with you all as you hop into the conversation. I have a private chat. I didn't even notice that. Must be Patrick. Yep. Okay. So I see we're just starting to get people popping in, but just for a couple of minutes, I know I put out a video today. Patrick, did you happen to, what's your interpretation of what's going on with this whole executive order thing with crypto? Have you been on top of that situation?
Yeah, I watched several really great YouTubes today about it. One of them was pretty good. My buddy Jeff put one out, basically said we don't know enough yet, which is about the best answer I can give you. It doesn't scare me though.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of posturing, and I think they're just laying the groundwork for taking away cash, going to UBI, going to an app, to making a Fed coin. Basically, if you look at the analogy over to what China did with their central bank digital currency, they basically just made it so that they can track everybody on the blockchain. So,
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is, I'll make it like really simple. I see the dollar, like the cash physical dollar, is just another stable coin. It's just a whole lot less liquid and harder to move around. But that's all the dollar is to me. It's a stable coin. It's a value that is denominated out of Bitcoin. But to me, Bitcoin is the standard, not the dollar.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. But the problem is going to be that, people don't know what they don't know. So if they launch this thing and they're going to think it's the same as Bitcoin, and it's not, they're going to need people like us they're going to be coming to us, like in all of our different platforms, this one, Patreon, Telegram, Crypto Confidential, and say, what is the difference? We don't understand. And we're going to have to educate them and just say, look, the dollar is the worst token there is, the current paperback dollar, because you can just make more and more and more and more of this. It's already digital as it is. They just make this, add a zero, add a one, whatever, just make more of it. But it's not like Bitcoin or Litecoin or Digibyte or these other coins that have predefined inflation rates or how many coins there's ever going to be. So there's a cap, and we know exactly how much it's. Bitcoin is the only asset we know exactly how much it's ever going to be. You can find more of every other commodity: gold, silver, palladium, and all those prices are going up because that's when there's a war. That's typically where things go. But they can find more oil. They can certainly print more dollars, but they can't make more Bitcoin. There will only ever be 21 million, and that's it. And they've lost a whole bunch of it too. So I think I saw Plan B put out. I think he grouped like all the different wallets and how much, like how long they've been moving, and I think he guessed around 2 million Bitcoin have been lost. What's your guess, Patrick? How many Bitcoin do you think we've lost?
Man, I wouldn't say it's quite 2 million, but there's a significant amount of them. I mean, 2 million would blow my mind. That's a significant percentage of the market. So, especially of the market supply, I don't think it's quite that much. I can see that there have been like hacks and scams and whatnot. I'm sure there are people with the hard drives, that they can't get back, or someone who lost their key. I'm sure there's a lot of those out there, but I don't think the Bitcoin's necessarily out of the ecosystem for people who may have been hacked. It's just moving around. So with that, I'd have to believe that the number's a little lower, but I mean, I guess I would be surprised to hear it's 2 million, but if it is, I'd like to see the data, because I'd just be really shocked if it's that high.
Yeah, I think his assumption was probably not the best one, which is that he grouped the wallets for Bitcoin based on the last time there was a transaction and what the amount was of Bitcoin. So he said anything that was under, say, 5,000 or 6,000 hadn't moved since Bitcoin was 5,000. So he assumed that they were lost. I don't necessarily make that assumption at all, because some people have been in Bitcoin for years and they're like, this is their long-term hodl plan. And when it was $100 to 1,000, I mean, when it goes from 100 to 1,000, everybody's happy. And when it gets 1,000 to 10,000, every decade they get happier and happier. And when you zoom out, if we go back 4 or 5 years, I remember when we were talking, I think when I first got in, Bitcoin was about $1,000 somewhere in there, because I remember that year it hit 1,000, and the end of the next year I think it was at 20,000. So we're talking early 2017, somewhere in there. So yeah, I mean, if you zoom out 4 years, it's just like it's I call it the crypto coma. Like if you had slipped into a coma, what exactly you know, where would we be as far as, you know, like if you just went to sleep 4 years, you'd be happy. You would miss all these up and down traits that I went through. So,
You know, I had an aha moment yesterday. It was at my local coin shop, and I've never really held a chunk of gold before. I've held silver, but you know, in your hand to really hold gold, I held like 6 troy ounces. It's like, you know, 12 grand, $13,000 of gold, and this thing can fit in the pocket of, you know, the little quarter pocket that you have inside your jeans. That's where it could fit. And I was thinking, man, that's a really good way to move it. And then I still sit there and think, it's not compared to crypto. I mean, I understand it's a hard asset and it's got its value, but it doesn't move as well as crypto. And now more than ever, we're starting to see as you let everyone understand, you know, all the stuff that's going on in the world, it's really hard to get away from the idea that crypto solves a lot of problems that we have.
yeah, I remember it was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was still working for someone else. I actually had the opportunity to visit a gold mine, which was out in, I think it was Utah. No, Nevada. It was in Nevada, and they were like the protocols that they put in place there. They had to like check people's boots and things, because as they were moving the gold around and they would liquefy it or melt it down, people would step on it and then get some gold residue on their boots and take it home, scrape it off, and then they have more gold. So it's amazing, like how much value those things can be. And of course, we still think it's undervalued. While we're approaching, I think we're at 2,000. I haven't checked, but we're probably right about $2,000 for gold per ounce, which some would call an all-time high. But if you go correct for inflation, which should be around 3,000 or 4,000, and of course, if you go to usdebtclock.org, we should be around 30,000, 40,000 per ounce. It's pretty crazy, but gold is spiking. All commodities are spiking thanks to what's going on over in Eastern Europe. And we know what, you know, the Ukraine and everything going on there. Everybody's worried about being able to get certain things. And like it's a global economy now. And now we've just kind of shrunk down, and like we're not blockading yet, but I've heard shipping companies today are saying we're not going to go to Russia for their own safety. So they look for a lot of like hard to get stuff to be even harder to get. So we got our first question here. So let me show this one. This is an interesting one. So Corey Lett comes in and said, can you discuss anything on the VeriDAO? Have you approached any companies yet? Any plan of action yet? Well, I am on the VeriDAO, and we do have, we started to meet with some regularity. I think it's twice a month now. And I can tell you that letters did go out before the end of last year to inform a number of companies that they are infringing on the patents and that there should be some course of action. And sometime this month, I think, well, we're in March now. They have to report like their quarterly statements, and they have to say that they've been notified this. They have to release that information to their shareholders. Otherwise, they don't have, it's part of their fiduciary responsibility when they do a quarterly earnings report. They got to tell people. But as far as beyond that, they continue, like Veritasium still continues to reach out to people and try to work with deals and work to improve the community. It's not just a crypto question. It's everybody that uses the blockchains. We're talking about like all the big financial people, all like anyone who does any blockchain is influenced by this patent. So they're trying to, people need to understand that, and it goes way beyond crypto. And I think that the VeriDAO is trying to position the information in a more positive light going forward and saying, hey, what would have happened if, say, I don't know, Facebook or Google or somebody like, or Morgan Stanley had this patent instead? I mean, that would pretty much kill DeFi right away. I mean, just imagine it was just like, no, we're not, like they jack up their rates on, they wouldn't even license it. They just say, we own the patent. We're shutting you down, cease and desist to everybody. They would just own it. So it's actually a benefit that Veritasium has these patents to both the crypto community and the financial world overall. But it's got to play out. It's been a few months. It's just starting. Probably we're going to see some litigation at some point. I don't know when. I don't know how. Obviously, they're trying to avoid that because it's sort of a last resort. But typically, patent enforcement happens in the courts, and that could be where it goes. And the first time there's that landmark decision, then the partnerships will probably follow. And you'll be hearing more about Veritasium as well. I know Reggie's still speaking and doing some shows. I know I'm actually recording a show with him and LitecoinLeader tomorrow. We'll see how that goes out. but we're just starting to do a Very Dow show. And that's still it's still very early. I don't even want to say it's going to come out. So it's just a conversation at this point. And we're just seeing how it goes. But there's been a lot of talk about educating people about what the Veritasium project and also about what's coming. So any comments from you, Patrick, about Veritasium?
I mean, I've got different comments, right? But at the end of the day, for me, what really matters is he does have the patent. That is a fact. And I just need to see it enforced, because it looks like a lot of the key projects aren't going to be reporting out on it in their quarterly statements, because they're not going to believe that it's a credible threat to them or there's any merit to it. So I don't believe that until there is litigation that a project is really going to take them seriously. But with that said, whether it goes good or bad for other projects, it doesn't really matter, because it doesn't touch Bitcoin. And that's where I'm at. My idea is all about being, more of a Bitcoin maximalist, I guess you'd say. I believe in the value of other projects. I totally think that there's a lot of use cases for other projects. It's not that, I will be attending Shitcoin because I believe there's value in a lot of other projects. But for me, my strategy is to hodl Bitcoin. So I don't really see any Veritasium IP infringements by Mr. Middleton at all to the Bitcoin network. And I don't see that for Litecoin or Dogecoin, right? So we know the several of them that we don't think are going to get touched. But at the end of the day, I don't really see that there's going to be any movement. I think that education is what Reggie's idea is. He likes to educate people, and he's a really nice guy, actually. So at the end of the day, he's not a bully. So he doesn't want to go to litigation. It's just clear he's not like that. But he does have the patent. So it's still yet to be seen. I just don't say anything's going to happen unless there's litigation.
Yeah, that's a good answer too. And technically they have two. They have the Japanese and U.S. patents, which is the top two of the top three markets, the financial markets in the world, as currently defined, of course. But there's still pending for a world and European patent. But again, I know Reggie doesn't like litigation because he suffered from it when he dealt with the SEC. So he doesn't really want to go that route, but could very well go there, and he will go there as a last resort. But obviously, and it may be that for the first one or two, and then after that, people will just partner with him. But we'll see how it plays out. And again, yeah, there's a lot of people that don't even know about Veritasium. So it's a great conversation to have. It's going to be enlightening to people because this coin's been around for a long time. Token has been around for a long time, but not many people know about it because it's only on a very, very few exchanges, because the exchanges compete with it. They don't like it as well. So it's an interesting story that we're starting to retell to people. And again, I told the DAO, like, just fresh eyes. I know you guys are deep into the project. Let's go with a fresh eye perspective, because a lot of people don't know any of this. So that's what we're attempting to do and educate the masses. So, okay, next question. So we got some good questions coming in here. So this one is again about Russia and the minerals, and plus all the gold that they have purchased. We're changing some U.S. fiat into Russian rubles. Be a good play. I don't like to play too much of the Forex game. I think that the ruble is probably not a great. I personally am not doing that. I'm not financial advice, of course, but I probably wouldn't do that, because I think that they're heading towards something else. Because the ruble is a remnant of the old system, and the old system is tied to a central bank, and the central banks are getting shut down. And I did a video on SWIFT and SIPS and SPFS, which is not sunscreen. These are all systems these are messaging systems of how people move money, but no one's taking the ruble at this point. They are trying to force a few things to be done in rubles, but for the most part, it's a dying currency, much like the dollar. It's just dying faster. And it's just what happened in Greece, Cyprus, Argentina, Venezuela. Like, all these things are going to hyperinflate. So I would not really go into the ruble, because they shut it down for the old trading pairs. So when you lose trading pairs, you lose the market. So there's not a market for it.
Yeah, my answer to that's really pretty simple. Fiat is garbage. Stay away from it. I wouldn't even be looking at values of fiat. Stick with a crypto that is going to win year over year. This system may not be here next year. I would stay out of it, and I wouldn't even look at any stocks or anything on the market other than crypto. There's just no reason for it. I like what Abra CEO said in the video that I watched a couple of days ago. He basically said, I'm looking forward to the day where I no longer have a bank account. Like, my goal was to have that happen this year, but I didn't get it to happen this year. And Bill said very clearly, it's one of my goals to happen this year. I don't want a bank account anymore for any reason.
And for those of you who don't want bank accounts or don't understand how we're doing that, we're actually teaching people how to be your own bank and over at Crypto Confidential, and to live the crypto life of how do you use vehicles like Nexo or a BitPay card or a Litecoin card to get out of the fiat system as much as you can and pay for your bills that way. And just, you become your own bank. And it's like, there's a structure to it. It's a new way of thinking, but you have to start thinking in sats and Bitcoin, not dollars, because you can think of the assets you value in dollars relative to each other, but the dollar is just a demarcation. It's just a language to say, okay, this, like, Bitcoin's worth $41,000. It's also worth 400 Litecoin. I mean, they're just a different translation in a trading pair. The dollar is just one of the trading pairs, and the dollar could be heading towards the path of the ruble, and especially with what they're talking about with this new executive order about like launching a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. I should have said Fed coin in the video instead of USDC, but the acronym just kind of popped in my head. So I didn't mean USDC, the current stable coin, but I meant a Fed coin. So they'll launch a Fed coin, and they'll just kind of like say, well, everybody will be paid in Fed coin instead of dollars. So again, these things are just going to be remember, the masses they just want to be able to earn a living, save some of their wealth, put food on the table, and they don't want to worry about all this stuff. But unfortunately, it's impacting everyone, and the world is sort of waking up to cryptocurrency, and that's a good thing. But they have to learn the differences between the different flavors that are going to be out there, because there's going to be some that are great and some of them that are not so great. And that happens in crypto right now, but it's going to be more mainstream, and more mainstream people need to learn. So that's going to be the challenge for people. Okay, next question. Corey's firing away. So here we go. I watched a video with Reggie compared Bitcoin to an NFT. He had a pretty good argument. Any thoughts? Bitcoin to an NFT.
That can't even be possible because the whole point of Bitcoin is the fact that every one of them is the same and they're all worth the same. And NFT, by its nature, is that each token is different from the next token. So no, I don't agree with him. I didn't see that, but I would argue against it.
Yeah, I'm curious. Corey, if you want to share that video in the comments or wherever, like, I will check that out. Or you have more details on that particular question or that argument, we can continue to have it or discuss what he said. But I don't think that's. I would actually like to see that, because I'll be talking to Reggie soon. But I don't know what. I don't get the basis of comparison there. It doesn't make any sense either, because again, Bitcoin is fungible. It's like every coin is the same, as Patrick just said. It doesn't matter if you have the first Bitcoin or the 21 millionth.
Actually, there are people that will pay more money for the earlier coins, but I mean, you're talking about like the baseball card collectors, like the real geeks who. You have one of the first Bitcoins minted? Are you kidding me? Like mine? I want one of those. I'll pay more. There are rare old wallets that are worth more, but only because we're nerds, not because they're actually worth anymore.
Right. So that's like, let's go to silver as the analogy. There are collectible coins that have a lot more value because they're rarer, but a silver dollar is still a silver dollar. It still has the same amount of silver in it, 90% silver. But if it comes from Carson City Mint, where they didn't have many of them, many made, obviously that's worth more. Kind of like having that stamp with the upside down plane, that's worth a lot of money. It's just, again, it's the rare. And the baseball card one is a good analogy too. But for the most part, unless you're a collector for some reason, they're pretty much like every Bitcoin is interchangeable. That's one of the core tenets of the money argument. That's every ounce of gold is the same as far as exchange of value. Same with Bitcoin. All right, let's see what else we got in here for questions. Yeah, okay, Corey keeps firing away. All right, I'm going to keep answering Corey's questions, which is fine. But if people want to throw in more questions in the comments, feel free. Not financial advice, but if I was you, would you be worried about paying down debt or grabbing more crypto if you recently sold something and had some extra funds? That's a great argument, and I've had that debate with many people, and I know Patrick pretty much agrees with me here. Every dollar you can get right now, I would be putting it into an asset that's appreciating while the dollar is losing value. And if I have to go into debt to do that, to an extent, I mean, I wouldn't. I would leverage everything that, like, if you can't make your bills every month, but it doesn't make any sense. But if you can go, like, it's not financial advice, but if let's just say you had $100,000 of equity in your house, like, why wouldn't you go and at least get that money, currency, get that currency, that value, capitalize it, put it to work for you, because that value may not be there tomorrow, for one thing, because the housing market could turn, which is probably going to soon, because mortgage rates are going up and rents going up, which is it's going to change the dynamic of real estate a lot. So the value is going to go down in real estate. And also there's talk, obviously, of less people walking the planet, which will also change the dynamics of real estate. But regardless, the financial signs are already there that the mortgage rates are going up, and that all these different things. Like, if you're in a neighborhood, and I'm actually going to make a video of this shortly, because I'm going to shoot one over. I see a lot of construction here at Myrtle Beach, and that is not a sign that the real estate market is strong. And it's actually a sign that it's coming to an end, because typically those projects take 2 to 3 years to bake, to even get through zoning and get started. So, and it takes years to build all these, like a couple hundred houses or a commercial site. It takes years to do that. And they put a lot of work into it, but the price of lumber is going up. The price of everything is going up. And while there's an argument there that people are going to run to real estate to try and save some value, there's a lot of arguments to say that it's not going to hold up more than, I would guess, a year at the most, and it's going to start to really turn down probably sooner than that. Patrick, what are your thoughts on the paying down debt and also real estate?
Okay, so there's 2 different thoughts I have. The first one is, this is a bad time to buy property. I don't know anyone that will tell you that right now is a great time to buy property. Prices are high. People are getting less value for their dollar. And when you see that, one of the big indicators that you're talking about is the number of days of inventory on the market. And you're starting to see that go up. The reason why is because interest rates, as they start to go up, you price people out. So today is not the day you buy a house. Today is the day you borrow against the value of your house and buy Bitcoin. There's never going to be a solution for me. I do buy properties. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't not invest in real estate. I invest in a real estate piece of property when I can buy it for 3 Bitcoin and then I can sell it for 6. And the price of the house doesn't have to do anything. I just have to do it when Bitcoin times it right. I don't care about the value of the property. I just care how much Bitcoin is worth and how much Bitcoin I can get. So if I spend 3 and get back 6, I doubled my money, even though I don't care what the value of the house is. I could lose money on the house and still be fine. So to me, no, I don't care about real estate. I don't care about anything other than stacking sats. If I'm going to be buying the ruble, that means because I know I can make 20% on it by morning. That's it. Only because I see such strong indicators that it would be stupid not to make my money real quick and get more Bitcoin tomorrow. Same thing with silver, same thing with homes. But no, why would you spend any of your money buying more real estate? Real estate exists to make me Bitcoin.
So, I'm sorry, I cut you off. What was the last statement?
Real estate exists to make me Bitcoin.
Yes. So to clarify one thing that Patrick said, interest rates aren't necessarily going up. It's the mortgage rates are going up. So they went from like 3 to 4.5%. So that's making like houses much more expensive, because you basically made it 50% more expensive to go borrow money to go and get a mortgage. So if you were able to afford a $2,000 payment at 3%, now that payment buys a lot less house at 4.5%. So that's going to force the prices to start to come down. What you're seeing now in the real estate market is that there's a lot of cash buyers and cash offers, and people like, oh, we're just buying this up. Well, there are certain groups out there that are buying up real estate that are just grabbing it off the market just to get it out of people's hands.
That's another problem, because that's another problem on top of the fact that the prices are so high, mortgage rates are going up, people are outbidding each other, making prices go up like crazy. This is the time where if you can get $500,000, buy 10 Bitcoin.
Yeah, and their
house is worth.
Yeah, and there's an argument. There's a lot of people that are obviously trying to move to a different state, and they're trying to move to different areas. And there are parts of the country, South Carolina, Texas, Florida, I would say Salt Lake City is hot too. There's a lot of hot markets out there. This area, it's just people are just, it's growing quickly, and people want to get in before they have a fear of missing out in the real estate market. So that's what they're like, and they see that as like, well, real estate is going up and up and up, and they're not making more real estate. The problem is that the value of real estate is determined by a financial market, and it has no bearing on the actual value of the property. If you have a property that you want to live in for 20 years, and you want to buy it, and this is the right time for you to buy, I understand that. Go ahead and do it, but understand that the monetary value of that house is likely to go down in the next year or two. And as far as borrowing, I mean, if you're there's a thing called smart debt, and a lot of real estate developers know this. Is like, you get a property and then you mortgage it to the hilt because it'll still cash flow. Like, if you can borrow as much as you can at good rates, you can pull the capital, and that's working capital, pull the money out of that property and put it somewhere else, either for your own expenses or to buy more property or buy a different asset. That's what they do. And if the cost of that money, let's call it 10% for just a round number. If you can make better than 10% in another investment vehicle like Bitcoin or something else that you see, then taking that 10% loan out and buying an asset that's growing faster than that debt makes perfect sense. And this is something that we're talking over at Crypto Confidential. Like, we're talking about like putting your Bitcoin to work at Nexo. Like, you can get Nexo and you can borrow, and people flinch because the borrowing rate is like 12, 13%. And like, for first off, your credit line pays for it. Secondly, you can actually make 7% because you can borrow 13% and put that money straight into like a stable coin like Terra Luna and make 20%. So you're actually making the difference. You're making 20%, but you're losing 13% because you borrowed the money. So you're making the spread, which is 7%, with zero risk because you put your money in stable coin. So if you pull $10,000 out of your Bitcoin and put it into a stable coin for $10,000, it's going to be $12,000 at the end of the year, but your debt might be 11. So you actually made $1,000 just from doing that with no risk. Why would you not do that?
People that own their home flat out, or like have a really high amount of equity in their home, they're like, in my opinion, just doing the dumb thing. It's not financial advice. It's just common sense. You're going to leave $500,000 sitting on the table for the banks to play with. And instead, you could take that $500,000, and on Nexo, if you borrow up to 20%, that's $100,000 you can borrow without any interest. That's like, you could just only borrow up to 20% and put that to work. And that would make your payments every year. You wouldn't even need to pay anything. And if anything does crash, housing markets get screwed over, your household is only worth $100,000, who cares? You still have like 15 Bitcoin by the end of the year, and you can go buy any house you want with a Bitcoin at the next 2 years. Like, they can take your house, let them have it. You still don't lose any way you slice it. If you're sitting there and your house is paid off, all you're doing is watching your assets depreciate in value.
Exactly. Yeah. So Deborah Hoffman, one of our favorites here, she's asking a question. So I'm going to post that up here. If there's a financial market reset, what happens to mortgages? I wonder if Nassar or whatever the reset looks like is a trap. So this is going to be a touchy one to talk about on live YouTube. So we'll do our best here. I'll give Patrick, you want to come? I saw your face change. Do you want to give this as a first crack, or
yeah, go ahead. You can come take my house. Have fun. Let's play this game if you want. If you think that they're going to come after me when all the mortgages in the whole country are defaulting, like, my mortgage is going to be the last thing. It'll be people have what they have, and again, that's going to just shock the market. I don't think that that's going to ever play out in the favor of like the big banking systems at all, because what are they going to do with all these homes if no one can buy them and no one can sell them? So basically, everyone's going to get to keep what they have, and they're going to use whatever physical, real assets they have, like Bitcoin, silver, guns, ammo. That's what they're going to use to transact, because they won't care what the dollar is, and they won't go to the bank to get a dollar. And guess what? Because you took a $500,000 loan on your house, they can't take anything anyways. You have the Bitcoin, you have the house. What are they going to do?
Exactly. So, I mean, again, I totally agree with Patrick. It's what you own. But as far as the mortgage, I mean, I'm not worried about that. I think that it's like, to understand how that works, if the mortgages, so a bank creates a mortgage, which creates money out of nothing, and then they sell it on a secondary market because now there's an income stream for your payments. So they sell that onto a different marketplace. if people start defaulting and people aren't able to pay off on the mortgages, then like it's going to be the 2008, 2009 all over again, where we have a ton of properties that are bank owned REOs and they can't get rid of them. So they're going to be selling them for discounts. So, but as far as your own personal mortgages, what will happen? I don't necessarily think there's going to be a financial market reset, although it could happen if someone says, hey, you know what? We're going to change to a different gold standard. And all of a sudden, it could be the yuan, it could be the ruble, it could be whatever. They're saying this is now worth, instead of $2,000 an ounce, it's 20,000 overnight. They just revalue things. That would change things and make things more valuable, but it would reduce the impact of every current debt. So if we get to hyperinflation where things just as we see now at the gas pumps and the grocery store, as things go up and up in cost, then the impact of old debts are less impactful. So if you have a debt,
a new MacBook Pro costing as much as you owe on your house.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to be seeing weird things like that and saying because I remember when I first got into real estate, that was probably like 20 years ago or so. I remember we would hear about people with like $300 mortgages because they were established in like 1980 and that was their payment. And everybody's like, oh, I wish that was, but that was a lot of money back then. But now it's minuscule because inflation, right? The house may have gone from worth $30,000 to $300,000 over that time frame. But what really happened is that the house didn't change. They might have done some improvements, but it did age. But let's just say that this piece of property didn't change at all. It's perfectly just as it was 30 years ago, except all that happened was the value of the dollar went down. So you need more of those worthless pieces of paper, those Federal Reserve notes, to buy it. So again, same thing with cars. Like cars used to be cheap. Things that used to be cheap 20, 30, 40 years ago are different prices now because the dollar has lost its purchasing power and you need more of them to pay for these things that are the exact same thing as they were 20, 30 years ago.
And I think that's the whole idea of smart debt, right?
Yeah.
You understand your money is worth more now.
Right. If you put in the right thing. So if you need to figure out what assets are going to appreciate the best. And right now that's crypto, gold, silver. It appears. And if you and for proof of that, especially with crypto, go back 4 years, as we were talking about early on. And what was the price of Bitcoin? Like $1,000 like 5 years ago. So if I would have told you you can make 30 times on your money, now 40 times in 5 years, would you buy everything you could of that asset? Of course you would. So now you could probably make a similar argument, maybe not quite as dramatic with Bitcoin because it's growing and starting to taper off a little bit. So you may not get that 30x in 5 years, but it's certainly going in the right direction as opposed to the dollar and buying gas and other things. Like there are things that you need that you get now. I have many friends there's a lot of people right now. I would say that their nerves are a little more on edge about what everything's going on. All the prices are going up. They're wondering how they can afford things. You just want to get the cash out of your hands now for stuff you're going to use the next 3 to 6 months. Because I think I've seen this happened to me once, and I was shocked. Happened to be in one store, and something was cheaper than it used to be. I'm like, how'd that happen? Because I never see prices go down anymore. So
real estate agents right now, that must be a real hard job. Can you imagine? I mean, my mother-in-law's a real estate agent. She drives everywhere to meet clients. I mean, you have to spend hundreds of miles and hundreds of thousands of dollars on gas before you even find the right house for a client. I mean, I just don't see how it's feasible. Everything has to go up. Just the gas prices alone for these real estate agents, truck drivers, delivery drivers. You think Amazon Prime is going to be free when gas is $20? There's no way. It's going to come somewhere. It's not going to work. You got to be smarter. Bitcoin is insurance against the shit that's going to happen.
And speaking of what's going to happen, Corey, with another good question. I was actually going to I was going to go to this topic next. Can't finish that word. What's your opinion on the Fed raising rates? Could they get gas $10 by June? Well, the second one is probably. Right now, with the way they're going, they're trying to push things. If you saw the summary of the executive order about crypto, they slipped in climate change in there. They said environmental impact or societal impact, or whatever they phrased it. But that was one of the terms they're going to look at when they study cryptocurrencies and which ones they recommend. So you can imagine that they're going to come back and say Bitcoin isn't great. they're going to try to downplay Bitcoin because of the environmental impact of all the miners and all the electricity, when really the current banking system uses way more electricity than Bitcoin.
You're right. And we'll agree with them and we'll say, you're right. You should talk to Satoshi and have him shut it down.
Exactly. Yeah, pick up that call.
Anyways, they can't do it's the US pretends like they have some like say at all about what happens with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is code. That's all it is. It's just code. You can't change it. It's going. Bye-bye. You can't stop the train. You can't get in front of it. There's nothing you can do to stop it. It's done.
Bitcoin is a tool, and it's just it can be used. It can be used for any purpose. I tell people it's like a hammer. You can build a house with it, or you can smack somebody in the head and kill them. It's a good purpose and a bad purpose. The hammer doesn't care. It's an inanimate object. It's just a tool. Bitcoin doesn't care what you use it for. It's just a mechanism to transfer value and store it. That's all it's for.
Could you imagine like knowing the creators today and being able to like hear the discussions that they're having together right now? Like they're just laughing. Like, look at, they can't stop it. Like, you know, if it is like a conglomerate of like a bunch of like smart nerds together in California, or it's this one guy, I don't care. This guy or this group of people must be sitting here going like, what are they going to do? Like they literally developed the greatest weapon of the 21st century.
So to finish off the rest of the question, and I agree with what Patrick said as usual, but what's your opinion on the Fed raising rates? I think that they will, but I think that it's not going to matter a darn thing. So I think that the next inflation, this next CPI, I think might come out tomorrow, and there's constantly meetings, and there's I think an FOMC meeting next week. And I try to keep up on all that, but it's hard. But you already know that these numbers are, first off, the inflation rate is not going to be reflective because it's lagging behind. They're going to put out a number for CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, which they don't include energy, they don't include food, and they take a wild guess at rental rates. But they're using February numbers. So if you go back to the end of February, you haven't seen a lot of the things that we are seeing. It's going to be reflected of that when they announce it. It's going to be reflected of the end of February. But a lot of the increases that we've seen, all of these things that have happened in March. So understand that I think that the action in Eastern Europe started on the 28th or the 1st. I think it was March 1st. I think that's right, because that's the first day of spring according to Russia. So that's typically when they like to do things. But it was all in March. So we've seen all this, like these really rampant increases in prices in the last 9 days. And that's not going to be reflected in the number that they talk about. But even the number that they talk about, they want to keep that number as low as possible because the government has to pay people based on that number. So the higher the number is, the higher that the bank that they have to give out to people. But of course, they're just printing the money anyway, so it really shouldn't matter. But the Federal Reserve, the Fed chair, wants to keep inflation at 2% as much as they can, and of course, they're not going to be able to. So even if they raise it a quarter point, I think the European Union is going to raise it soon as well, probably a half a point. But when the inflation rate is really like they're announcing it at 7%, it's really probably like 14 or 15 if you go to Shadow Stats and see how they originally calculated it back in the 80s. It's at least 14, 15% in the U.S. And the big issues are going to be there's a lot of other things that are inflating that, and the prices of food and the supply chain. All these different costs are going up, and there's going to be scarcity, and there could even be rationing if they start. That could be also part of what they do with the Fed coin. If they give out an app, they just say, here's your allotment this month for you to get your gruel, and that's all you'll get it, and you'll like it, and that's all you're going to get. So it's going to be. I don't put a lot of weight on these numbers. The numbers will influence the market for a day or two. We all know the direction it's heading. Whether they announce it as 7%, 8%, 6%, doesn't really matter. I know it was painful to fill up my tank today at the gas pump, even though I have like extra gas in my as a safety net. But it's just the way it's going to be. And
easy trick not hurting is when you go to the gas station, guys. If you just tell them fill up and then you don't look at it, it doesn't hurt as much. Just don't look.
That's an Oregon answer for people that don't know. And there are 2 states in the union.
Oh, you have to get out and do it yourself.
That's right. There are 2 states, and I'll tell a little story now because we have time.
Oh,
but
man.
I was once in a car in college, and there were 2 guys from New Jersey, 1 guy from Oregon, and 1 guy from Ohio. And the guy from Ohio had to get out and pump the gas because no one else knew how to do it, because we all grew up in the 2 states in the union that don't pump your own gas, which is New Jersey and Oregon. So when Patrick's saying, here, fill it up, that he's going full service, which is, the standard in Oregon and New Jersey. But you get weird looks if you drive through Jersey and pump your own gas. But if you have out-of-state plates, they take a little kinder to you. But yeah, that's yeah, I get what he's saying. But I went and look for deals. Like I have we have Circle K's here, and I went and got a card, and I think the first 100 gallons is 30 cents off. So do that, then go get another card and put it in another bank account. And if you want to play that game, knock yourself out. But that's $30 right there.
Yeah, the good news is my wife goes shopping at Fred Meyer, just Kroger. And since groceries are going up so much, we're spending so much money. So we're getting more discounts off on gas.
Yeah.
You get more points. You spend more money on groceries.
Yeah. But that's a trap. I was like, hey, look how much money I saved by spending $800. That's a trap.
I know it's all a joke. The best way to do it is to just not look at it.
Yeah, that's true. And
can you take people where you are to just like tip them to do it? That's really sad that you have to get out of the car. What about when it's cold or raining?
You can go to, there are full service stations, but they cost more. And they're also pretty rare because it's an employee that they have to have. Most of them don't have it.
I'd find that and pay a little bit more money just so you don't have to look at the price.
Well, as I did in the video a couple of weeks ago, I found that station that sells real gas. So if you need, that's the best place you can get. The best thing you can get to store gas is to get real gas with no ethanol in it, because ethanol dies in 3 months. So if you're storing gas long term. Pardon?
A lot of people who have boats and jet ski and stuff, we call it clear gas.
Yeah. All right, let's see if we got more questions out there. All right, because so let's see. Yeah, so I did a video on gas, and yeah, but the nice thing about gas stations here, for the most part, obviously, even it's raining, they're all covered. Although I think we saw one. I think we were in Texas, and we saw one that didn't look so stable in the wind. We thought that was going to tip over.
We did not go to that one.
No,
there was the whole pitch like this, but the pole was just on right here. It didn't make any sense how it was held up.
Yeah, it looked like a lean-to that was about to lean over. So, so we did not want to be under that covered one for sure.
Airjammer88 says, "Do you think gold and Bitcoin are going to run away?" Yes.
Run away.
Me.
I talked over you again, Patrick. What did you say?
Slowly, then suddenly, Bitcoin is going to run away. So is gold. So is silver. So is nickel, like we just saw yesterday, got shut down. I mean, just all the commodities, right? They need these to produce.
Yeah. And if you remember about the coin shortage, it's really a metal shortage. So if you have coins or can get coins from the bank, you may be making a profit. I think it's not just the coins that are old. Obviously, the silver coins that are below, I think it's 1964 and older, or 90% silver. So old dimes and old quarters and old half dollars. Half dollars extended a few extra years, but were lower percentage into the 70s. But also pennies that were before 1982 are all copper, and they are worth triple their face value. Nickel's worth more than its face value, because all these coins are now worth more because the meltdown value is higher than the face value. I mean, we've all known that. We've known for a while that it costs more to make a penny than actually the worth of the penny itself. But now the physical metal of an old penny is 3 cents, and that will add up to people as we get, again, a scarce resource. What's going to happen now is that we're going to get more nationalistic again, because it's going to get limited resources. So everybody's going to try and hoard stuff in their own country. And if you don't have it, then you're going to have to recycle it or find ways to use it, or just find an alternative solution. So we see some of the rare commodities that are coming out of Russia right now, like palladium, is it's hard to get, but it's going to happen a lot over the globe. So, all right, let's see. Will there be an A? Will there be? All right, I lost that one. Will you guys be at AB event this month?
No, I don't know what that is.
I have no idea what AB. I don't know what AB is.
This month I'll be at LitecoinLeader's event in March. That's it. Yeah,
we will be at the end of last weekend of March, which is Litecoin Day. I think is March 25th. I think that's right. Yeah, 25th. We'll be in Oklahoma City and at the meetup with Litecoin Lisa and Clint Westwood. And if you want details on that, I think it's on my site now. Thank you, Joanna. But it's also at clintwestwood.net right at the top in this details. I think they're at the meeting is at Lisa's Gun Club on Friday. And then there's Bitcoin. She's speaking at Bitcoin Day the next day, which is also local. So we'll be there. And basically we're going to be in the area Friday and Saturday. So it's a good opportunity to come out, and Patrick and I will be there, as well as Justin from Viva Capital. And so it's a good time to be out there. And then, of course, a couple weeks later, we will be at Shitcoin and Bitcoin 2022 in Miami area. So that's our next major events, the ones we can certainly announce because they're within a month or so. I think Bitcoin 2022 starts on April 9th, and today's March 9th. So, yeah. So, oh, he meant to say an event. Okay. So Corey meant to say an event. So there, now you know. Now you know where we're going to be. Okay. So what are the differences between Matic ETH and Matic Algo, the other one? Matic, well, Matic, it works. So Matic has its own blockchain. It also works as a layer 2 for the Ethereum platform. I'm not familiar with how Matic and Algorand are tied together. I don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer to that either.
Yeah. So the transfer fee. So that's probably, so the way it works is that, think of it as a bar tab. Okay. So if like a layer 2 solution is like a bar tab, and Matic provides a layer 2 to Ethereum. So when traffic is high or the bartender is busy, there's a tab, and rather than swiping your card all night for every drink you order for your group, they just make a tab and they just add it to your tab. And at the end of the night, they do one credit card transaction. Same thing with the blockchain. So the layer 2 just adds them all up on a side chain and then dumps it to layer 1 at a point in the future. So to try to aggregate things together, to simplify things. It's like the old time ledger of it's a tab or a running tab that you have. That's how layer 2s work. And the most common ones that we're talking about, I think the Lightning Network or Stripe or Strike from Jack Muller. That's a very common one. But that's, yeah, Loopring is layer 2. That's what layer 2s do. They aggregate and then put it to the blockchain to simplify and lower the traffic. Is there going to be, we got about 10 more minutes. So everybody, so if you got your final questions, please put them over in the chat. We got time for about maybe 3 left, maybe 4. We'll see. Air Jammer asks, is there going to be a temporary dip in crypto when the stocks really crash? That's when I'm scooping up. Well, timing is one of the hardest things to predict. I think that you have to understand how price is determined right now. It's all centralized exchange for the most part. You're looking at Kraken, Coinbase, Gemini, Binance US. Those are the guys that are dictating the price. And that's what the oracles use too. So when you hear other YouTubers or influencers saying Bitcoin's going to go to zero or crypto is going to go to zero, they don't necessarily mean that the value is going to go away. They mean that you won't have the ability to get a dollar value for a Bitcoin, because they won't. You have to understand the exchanges. They have maybe 25% of the supply, if that, probably less. Because the last statistics I heard about Bitcoin, at least 75% are in cold storage or in a wallet off of the exchange. They're not there. So liquidity is very thin on these exchanges. So if there's a huge demand, they're not going to be able to support it. Think about what happened. I remember when Bitcoin Cash was first appeared on Coinbase, and then they had to shut it down like within 30 minutes because it just went crazy. So that could happen. And if you were there when Bitcoin ran from 10,000 to 20,000, it happened in a matter of days. And it was just green candle after green candle every minute, just going up and up. And you couldn't put an order in and get it filled unless you hit a market order, because no limit orders were filling because the price just kept going up. So when there's a huge demand, and the demand is certainly much higher, and there's a lot more people in crypto than there were 4 years ago, and there's a lot more need for it and use cases for it, as you've seen with truckers needing it, or people in other countries needing it, or needing to, scramble and go elsewhere to live, and they have to take whatever they can take. The most portable thing is your crypto. I mean, you're going to be carrying your phone, or you're carrying a laptop or something, or your seed words, whatever. That's your wealth, and you're paid. Like when a country gets taken over and hit throughout history, what they go after is what's valuable and what's internationally valuable. They don't care about the local currency, not at all. You'll never see a country invade another country and take their paper. That won't work. They will take their gold, their silver, their valuable asset, their paintings, whatever. I mean, just any historical war, you'll see that. And like, what did people, the Vikings, when North America was settled, even back when World War II and what was happening with Germany, they went up with a whole bunch of stuff, and that they never took any paper dollars from Poland. That's just how it works. So you got to understand how it's going to work. So that I think that as far as a dip in crypto, I think the dip could happen, but the dip may be on the way to zero because the markets are imploding. So it'll be, sure, you can scoop up and grab it, but you're going to panic, and it's going to chase out in more paper hands. Because if Bitcoin goes to zero, it's going to pass through a lot of different prices, and that's going to freak out a lot of people. And it'd be interesting to see when sites like Nexo do, when you're not going to be able to get a price for Bitcoin. So that would be an interesting question as well. But at some point, there's going to be a price, because the Bitcoin network won't be going down, and you'll be back to the old days where, what is the price of Bitcoin? Before Coinbase, and there were markets for it, and it was very hard to figure out, but there were. But I don't think we're going to be, well, we could be back to the days of going to McDonald's with a bag full of money and buying some Bitcoin from a guy.
Who you will sell a Bitcoin to for cash money?
You won't.
Yeah, but you may be selling any Bitcoin to anybody.
Yes.
We'll be leveraging it for some crappy CBDC or Litecoin to spend or something else, but we won't sell it. We'll leverage it.
All right. We got some 3 good questions that we're going to try to run through before we get a run at the top of the hour. So Corey asked 2 questions, and I'm going to tie them. I think we can go through them together. I'm not a big proponent for custody services, but do you guys trust Viva? Do you guys trust Viva? Do you think badly on those that use their services? And then follows up with not your keys, not your coins, but if it's insured, is that okay? Is it still trying to operate in the old system? So it's a custodian. So think of them as a system integrator. They just provide a service. And yes, anyone like Nexo or Celsius or Viva or any other custodian, you will be giving up your keys, but you want to go to a solution that is insured, and also they use a multi-signature wallet, so not one bad actor can do anything to you. So Viva is entirely insured dollar for dollar with Lloyd's of London. That Nexo is also insured. I'm not sure if it's Lloyd's or not, but they also insure. But again, to make your asset work for you, you are going to have to give up some control over it. Not all, but you're going to give up direct control so that you can get the value for your asset. But you have to trust the people that you'll be working with, but investigate, what they do about their keys and what they do. That's a question that comes up a lot for them. And they probably answer much better than I do, but I trust them because they take the right precautions, and they understand that if their reputation is huge to a company like Viva Capital. They're not that large yet, but if something gets out and they say, hey, I got ripped off from Viva, that would be detrimental, obviously, to their business. So their concierge service and what they offer, I mean, it's hard to beat. Patrick?
I mean, I'd be a little remiss to not just flat out say that we are Viva. We are part of Viva. We do a lot of work with Viva. My role is as an advisor to Viva. I trust Viva. I have my own money at Viva. I have my family's money at Viva. Excuse me. With regard to Omar and Robert and Justin, those guys are, about as quality as you can get, especially Robert. I mean, his attention to detail. Every client that we have, if they have a transaction they want to do, it's late at night, they're like, no, we'll just text Robert. He'll always respond to us. I mean, Robert is truly reliable, especially with, mitigating the risks with good insurance. That to me, you're always going to get to a point. I'm not a big proponent for custody services either, but I do think it's a necessity. At some point, it becomes part of your plan. So is everything there? No. Do I have control of my own assets? Yes, all the time with Viva still. I just have to make sure that I plan a little different if I need money, just like I do if I need to get $10,000 cash from the bank account. Just take stock.
And understand that a company like Viva, they use the industry standards of what every enterprise solution uses. They aren't really holding the funds. They're using the tools that everyone else uses, like a Grayscale or anyone else. Like they use Fireblocks, Blockdaemon, ZeroCap. These are companies that have high integrity and high ratings across the board for these kinds of services. So yes, you do have to get past the not your keys, not your coins method, and it's not for all your wealth. But again, it's part of your plan. It's protecting yourself, getting insurance, making sure your heirs can get what if you're a crypto expert, but the rest of your family isn't, at some point, they're going to need access to those funds. And the best way to do it is to have it at a custodian. because you could just say, hey, call up Robert or Omar, because if anything happens to Jeff or Patrick, that's where the money is. So that's also a good answer too. They also help you if it's with a custodian. You don't have to worry about like you personally moving it if you need to. You know where it is, and you just kind of it's a good consolidation point. And I agree that maybe not all your stuff, but obviously, like if your long-term wealth is part of your long-term wealth plan, using a service like that makes a lot of sense. All right, we got one final question from John Gibson. How you doing, John? Our last question is, friend told me about a privacy type project called Secret. Have you heard of it and thoughts? I have not heard of this project. I mean, there's like 20,000 projects out there. So I don't know this one. Patrick, have you heard of it? I don't.
Yeah, I have heard of it. I looked into it before, and I don't remember any of the details about it, though. I just remember I passed. It wasn't something that got me, going. I want to stick to other projects, but then again, I can't really talk about it. But I have a feeling that there's a reason that you're reaching forward. Let's do a quick test. Let's see what we can see here.
I don't know what you're doing. I was writing the chat.
You're writing a chat? I'm looking on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko real quick to remind myself what this project was about.
Yeah. So while Patrick's looking it up, I just want to say thank you to everyone for stopping by. And Patrick, just raise a finger when you're ready. So I'd like to thank everybody in the audience for stopping by. We're almost at the top of the hour. We're gonna have to run out of here, so we're gonna wrap this up. That was the last question for tonight. Patrick will come back at his answer in a moment. But again, thanks everybody. Like and subscribe, of course. Share this out. It's really helpful to the channel. I appreciate everybody's attention and spending some time with us. We know that's the most valuable asset you have because it's a limited resource. So again, thank you for that. So
I remember what it was now. This one was, they were building lots of APIs through a protocol that would allow you to not be able to track who your user was. So I think what it was for me is the token itself. I don't like the coins that are explicitly dealt for just privacy, because to me, I have nothing to hide. So I have no problem with it being public. And I prefer to stay out in the light like that. So I just am not interested in those types of coins is what it is.
Yeah, I call the privacy coins a niche of a niche. It's a smaller, it's a more mainstream. It's not much of a mainstream coin. You've got your Moneros, you've got your piracy, you got Pirate Coin, ARRR, I think Zcash. I think you have Litecoin that has that feature too. But privacy things, that's probably putting a target on your back if you're using those things. That's probably, if they start coming after people, that's the first place they try to go. So, but I think that where their attention is now shifting, the powers that be, their attention shifting over towards different blockchains, central bank digital currencies, and so on. So they may not be going after that, but be careful if you're donating to certain causes from certain addresses. There may be a reason why they want those addresses. So be careful what you share out there and how you donate. So just keep that in mind. You can always make another wallet or figure something else out to buying. If you wanted to donate to a cause for whatever reason, and you could buy fiat, move it to a new wallet, and send it from there. And that wallet's that's the only purpose of that wallet. So that's another option. So just keep that in mind as you go forward. All right, we got a dash. So thank you everybody for your comments. I appreciate all your questions. Patrick, I appreciate the time, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.